Welcome to Love Letters from an Ally, a mini podcast that affirms your value, encourages your faith, and shows us how to love better, because love wins.
He loves you even when you're falling apart. He loves you and he has right from the start.
This is episode 0, where I answer the question, why am I doing this podcast? Well, I'm going to be a grandpa again. My youngest daughter is having a baby next month. And it made me think back to when I started my family. I was very young as well. We were both 20 years old when we started our family. And I thought back to the challenges and the hard times, and there was plenty of good times too. And I don't think I'm ever going to win an award for Father of the Year, but I took and still take being a parent and raising a family very seriously. I love and cherish all my kids. I love being able to spend time with them. Family is very important to me. And while I started a family very young, I did not start my faith journey very young. I started my faith journey about 20 years ago. I got saved, and while it's an excellent and wonderful experience for some people right off the bat, for me it was not. As soon as I got saved, I was kicked out of the house. My wife and I were separated for 4 years, and that was probably the lowest point of my adult life. It was tough. But thanks be to God, we were reconciled. We got remarried on our 15th anniversary, and the church played a big part of that. But that's when things started getting a little funny, and I don't mean funny, ha-ha. My oldest daughter and her girlfriend wanted to get married. New York State at that time passed legislation legalizing same-sex marriages, and they definitely, as soon as they could, wanted to take advantage of that. And my wife and I were very supportive of that decision. But the church didn't see things like we did. They recommended that we not go to the ceremony, and they recommended that we disown my daughter. And I think, if I recall, my wife might have laughed out loud when they said those things to her. Good for her. Because we wound up going to the ceremony, continuing our relationship with our daughter, and we continued to love our kids even and in spite of the church's theology. Because it turns out I was fed an awful lot of bad theology. And it took me a long time of studying, growing, learning about God, and growing in my faith walk. But there's still, while we were loving our kids, there was this hesitancy of trust. And I could feel it. A lot of times I'd be kept just about at arm's length. Well, fast forward about 10 years, and I'm still studying, still growing, and I'm now a Lutheran. I begin to look into becoming a Lutheran pastor. The church needed a pastor. I wanted to be a pastor. Until I looked into the synod's rules regarding same-sex marriages and the LGBTQIA plus community. And I read those rules to my wife, and she shook her head, and she said, "You can't be a pastor of this church." And I said, "You're right." And my wife and I realized and we made a commitment to take a bolder stance and be intentional in affirming and accepting the LGBTQ community. And that meant that my wife and I had to become better allies, not just for the community at large, but especially for my own kids. And let me tell you, my Christian friends were not amused. There was an awful lot of hate thrown my way, and it made me realize how hate and divisiveness can have a devastating effect on us. And that's why I am creating this podcast. I am bringing the love and the light of the gospel message that is for everyone. Love wins, and you can join up with me walking in love 5 minutes a day together, starting Valentine's Day. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, leave a positive review wherever you listen. Questions or comments can be emailed to lovelightalliance@gmail.com. And as always, remember this.
You know he